Okay, Erev Tov, everybody. Welcome to the Monday night Parashat Shavua class, studying Parashat Tisa. Let's go over what the Parashat talks about, so we have a nice synopsis of what we're dealing with, as we normally do, and then we'll look at today. Today we're going to look at a few points. Maybe we're going to expand on one towards the end, but there's a couple of nice ideas that I think I'll touch upon as we go through the pointers of the Parashat. Hashem tells Moshe to count the Jewish men from the age of 20 and up, but in order to do so, he doesn't point. You're not allowed to count people in Judaism. The way to count is done through machatzita shekel, where every male over the age of 20 would donate a half shekel of silver. And by counting the half shekels, Moshe is going to know how many Jewish men there are, and these machatzita shekel went as well to the korbanot and other parts of the daily service in the Mishkan. And this opening parasha of the parasha is what we read, Parashat Shekalim, which is normally around this time, but because it's a double Adar, where we push it off till the second Adar. So it's either Rosh Chodesh Adar where we read this, or the Shabbat before Rosh Chodesh Adar. But that's the opening paragraph of the parasha. It speaks about this mitzvah of machatzita shekel. Today we call it zecher machatzita shekel. It's not actual machatzita shekel. We're not donating any half silver coin to the Beit HaMikdash. So when we give our machatzita shekel, it's really in remembrance of so, and that's what we do before Purim. Hashem then commands Moshe Rabbeinu to make a kiyor. A kiyor was a basin, was a large copper basin made of nechoshet, it was like a pot of water. And before starting the service of the Mishkan, the Kohanim had to wash their hands and their feet from the water that came out of the spouts below. Interesting looking shape of a basin. It's not a typical sink that we are used to. There are pictures in many of your chumashim that you may see. You'll see how the basin looked. Where did they get the material to build this basin? So Chachamim tell us it was donated by the women. The women would take their copper mirrors and donate it to the Mishkan. This is where Hashem told Moshe to get the material to build the basin, with some sort of mirror-like material. When you look at the basin, there's some sort of reflection. The Midrash tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to accept these mirrors, because in Judaism, mirror is an object of vanity. In fact, there's a halakha, I spoke about it not long ago, halakha that we don't follow much today, but Shulchan Aruch writes that a man is not allowed to look at a mirror. Because, when you look in a mirror, you care only solely for yourself. You think, how good do I look? It's really it's vanity, right? And like beautifying myself. So Moshe Rabbeinu was like, we're going to take a mirror where ladies use to make themselves look pretty and put on their makeup and it's all physicality. There's nothing spiritual about a mirror. So why is it that we're going to have a mirror to be part of one of the kelim in the Mishkan, in one of the Beit HaMikdash? Moshe wanted nothing of it. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, what are you talking about? This specifically I want them to donate the mirrors. What was special about the mirrors? It wasn't so much the mirrors. It was the women's intent when using the mirrors. Here we have a nation that went through so many years of slavery and servitude, so many years of suffering and degradation, and they lost a lot of people over these times in Mitzrayim. And it was the women who spent so much effort beautifying themselves for the sake of their husbands, so that they can once again procreate and reproduce and build up the Jewish nation that lost so many people. So the mirror is not an object of vanity. It's an object of building. It's an object of rebuilding, in fact. So I heard a very very interesting fact from Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg from Boca Raton. He's the one who brought down this idea in one of his past Yorim. He says that the biggest Jewish population explosion in the last how many years took place in the DP camps after World War II. when after they've been slaughtered, Jews been slaughtered, almost wiped out completely, and they're sitting there in DP camps, waiting to be just brought back to some sort of reality. It was in those weeks and months and this that the Jewish people found out we have to rebuild ourselves, and that's when I guess so many children were born or came about from those weeks. It's when you're at the lowest point, when you're beaten down, that's when the Jewish people say, you know what, now is my opportunity to grow and rebuild. So Hashem says, that's what I want in my Mishkan. Don't look at it as an object of total materialism and you know what we care about, our makeup and our looks and my ties is straight and do I look good, do I look preppy? But lehefech, this is what the Jewish women use to help rebuild the nation so they can be attractive to their husbands. And for that, I want these mirrors to be part of the kiyor. The Kohanim are going to wash their hands every day. And really, truth be told, every day we kind of mimic the Kohanim. Every Jew is obligated in the morning to wash their hands, netilat yadayim, every single morning, alternating hands 3 times. And there are multiple reasons brought down why we wash our hands in the morning. Some say the reason is because there's a ruach tum'ah, there's an evil spirit that comes upon the hands when we wake up, and others say it's because our hands like to wander in the middle of the night, and because we don't have really control when we're sleeping, our hands might touch parts of our bodies that are not exactly clean, and therefore we wake up in the morning and we wash our hands because our hands touch parts of our bodies that are not clean. So some of them Farshim say, okay, so what happens if the guy wears gloves? If he wears gloves, so even if they do touch that part of the body, the hand is still clean. So that's why we still have the other reason of you have the fact that there's this evil spirit that comes upon the hand. So we need to get rid of that by washing our hands 3 times. Says the Rashba a different reason. The Rashba says the reason why we wash our hands every single morning is because we are like Kohanim. And just like the Kohanim would start their day before doing anything in the Beit HaMikdash, they would have to go to the kiyor and they would have to wash their hands to get ready for service. So therefore, our washing the hands, we are Kohanim. We are Mamlechet Kohanim Vegoy Kadosh. We are like Kohanim. We begin our daily service serving God in so many different ways. And we have to prepare ourselves. And this world is really the Mishkan, our Mishkan. And everywhere we go, we find different opportunities to be Aved Hashem and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore we wash our hands just like the Kohanim do. So someone asked a question. Okay, if that's the case, then why don't we wash our feet? The Kohanim, the Torah tells us, it's both the hands and the feet. In fact, they used to do it in a way, you had to bend down and the hands and the feet were washed at the same time, simultaneously. And that's how they washed. They opened the spout and the water came and the hands almost by the feet, washing it at the same time. Okay, it requires a little bit of acrobatic skills to do that, or at least you have to be a little bit in shape to bend down like that. But that's what they did. But nevertheless, why don't we wash our feet? Why don't we wash our feet? So, they wash. The Muslims wash their feet. The Muslims wash their feet. Yes, in fact, Abraham Avinu told the Aravi when they came to the tent to go wash their feet. We do see that. So one of the answers is given because we're not Kohanim. We're like Kohanim, but we're not Kohanim. But nevertheless, it's interesting. This is what we do. We mimic the avodah of the Kohanim every single day. So that's some of the lessons of the Mishkan, of the kiyor. Then Hashem gives Moshe the recipe for a very special oil called Shemen HaMishcha. This is a sweet-smelling oil that was smeared on the Mishkan and all the items, and this oil made the items holy, sanctified it. It was also put on the heads of Aharon and his sons. Hashem then tells the Jews how to make the ketoret. This was this beautiful smelling incense that was burned on the Mizbeach HaZahav, the golden altar, every single day, and in the Kodesh HaKodashim on Yom Kippur. There's also a commandment to keep Shabbat in this week's parasha. Probably the highlight of the parasha, for the wrong reasons, is where the Jews make the Egel HaZahav. Moshe Rabbeinu delays coming down from the mountain. The Jews think he's dead. Okay, which we're going to talk about later on today. And they build this golden calf, and we suffer from this averah until today. Moshe is given the luchot, the tablets with the Aseret HaDibrot. Moshe sees the Jewish people dancing around this golden calf, and he breaks the luchot and destroys the egel. He destroys the calf. Shevet Levi is put in charge to put to death all the people that worshipped the egel, and kills 3,000 men as a result of that. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up again to Har Sinai for 40 days and prays that Hashem should forgive the Jews. Hashem forgives the Jews, Salachti kidvarecha, and not only that, teaches Moshe Rabbeinu the best way to pray and ask for forgiveness, which we call the Yud Gimel Midot Rachamim. Hashem Hashem El Rachum Vechanun Erech Apayim V'Rab Chesed Be'emet Notzer Chesed Alafim Noseh Avon Afesha V'Chata'a V'Nakeh, which we recite many times throughout the season of Selichot, and Yom Kippur, of course, 26 times on that one day itself. Hashem tells Moshe to carve out new tablets, and when Moshe comes down from Har Sinai the second time, his face is shining so much so, and he has to put a masveh, put a mask. People can't stare at Moshe the way that they used to. Speaking of these 13 midot of rachamim, these 13 attributes of mercy that Hashem taught us, whenever we want to ask for forgiveness, this is the strategy that we use. This is the method that we can employ in order to achieve forgiveness. I saw something beautifully quoted on X, which was formerly known as Twitter, by somebody that I follow. It quotes a Rav named Rav Mordechai Rogov, and Zecher Tzaddik Livracha, and he had a beautiful idea that I want to share with you guys here. The pasuk says the following. Pasuk says, "Vayered Adonai be'anan, vayityasev imosham." That Hashem came down in a cloud, and he stood there. Vayikra b'shem Hashem, vayavor Hashem apanav, vayikra Hashem Hashem erachum echanun. Look what he writes over here. Keshe'era Kadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe et hayud gimel midot, midat chanun erachum. When Hashem showed Moshe and Bnei Israel the secret of these 13 attributes of mercy, Rab Chesed Be'emet, so on and so forth, in order to teach the Jewish people the way, so that the same similar ways that imitate God, how God is merciful, we are merciful. Yarad ve'ityasev be'anan. Where did God descend? He descended in a cloud. In order to allude and hint to you and teach you. That we have to be merciful and we have to do kindness. Not only when we are experiencing good times and things are clear and things are happy, and we look around and everything's bright and dandy and fine and glorious. It's easy to give compliments. It's easy to be chesed and do good things and help our friends when you are experiencing joy and things are great in your life. But even when your time is filled with thick clouds, and darkness, and our lives sometimes are filled with a lot of worry and a lot of stress and a lot of agony. We're still obligated to show each other chesed and rachamim. That Kadosh Baruch Hu showed this while he was in a cloud. So when your life is cloudy and your life is a little bit shaky and a little bit dreary and unknown, you still are obligated to display acts of kindness and mercy and beauty to your friends. I thought it was a beautiful idea brought down by Rav Mordechai Rogov, Zecher Tzaddik Livracha. But I want to focus on today, as mentioned in the title, we learn about the Maaseh HaEgel, the story of the golden calf, where Klal Yisrael fell from their high level, their madregot, and went to serve Avodah Zarah. And the Midrash tells us that there were two groups of people that refused to partake in the Egel. One of them was Shevet Levi, as I mentioned, because they then went and smote all the people that took part in it, and the women, the Nashim. Women had no part in this. Contrary to what you saw in the movie, women had nothing to do with the Chet HaEgel. So whose idea was it to start this golden calf? The rabbis tell us it was the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav were these latecomers to the Jewish camp from Egypt. They saw what was going on, like, okay, we're joining, because they didn't want to get left in Egypt the same behind. And they eventually got Am Yisrael, or part of Am Yisrael, to do this Averah. Now, how did they do so? What was lacking by Klal Yisrael to allow these people to be mashpia, to be so influential that they can stoop to such a level, to such an extent that they can, chas v'shalom, they actually were oved avodah zarah, they believed this was a God. So we hear often of the midah of chesed. And chesed is known to be one of the foundations of Klal Yisrael. Avraham Avinu, which is our first of our forefathers, was Amud HaChesed. He was the pillar of chesed. And we know, the Torah speaks, David HaMelech says, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, the world was created on chesed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created kindness to its creations. The whole purpose of the creations, Le'etiv LaBeruim, as the rabbis tell us, that Hashem wants to do good to other creations. And the world was destroyed by the Noah's flood because there was lack of chesed, because the people were employed in Hamas, into robbery and thievery. There was too much of that going on between one another. We're brought up with the fact that Klal Yisrael stands for chesed, real chesed. I've mentioned before that the name of Hashem is chesed. If you take Yud Kei Vav Kei and you expand each letter and you put the Yuds there, you get 72. Okay, which is gematria with gematria of chesed. So we speak again about chesed, chesed. How many times have you heard shiurim about chesed? But maybe we have to bring out a point which is very important to understand, and one yet is difficult to understand, hard to believe, that chesed has limitations. A person has to learn to say no sometimes when chesed is an opportunity. Saying no does not mean that you're going against the midah of chesed. It sometimes actually enables chesed to be an even powerful force. The Gemara Masechet Pesachim says, Shelosha chayehem enam chayim. There are three people who don't have a life. We quoted this Gemara not long ago. Gemara criticized such people. And one of the groups of people that the Gemara quotes is Rahmanim, merciful people, extensively merciful people. And the Rashbam there in the Gemara says, what does it mean, Rahmanim? Rahmanim yoter midai. They are too merciful. They're too nice. En hayav hayim. Their life is not a life. She'en lo menucha. Because he has no rest. And a person who has rahmanut, who has mercy and compassion, more than necessary, a person who gives into everybody and gives to everybody and helps everybody and never says no when he probably should be saying no, that person, en chayav chayim, she'en lo menucha. That guy has no rest. He can't live. He won't be able to function properly. So while chesed is certainly an incredible midah, and it's the character trait that we pride ourselves as Jewish people. And you look around at all the wonderful gemilut chasadim, there's a gemach for this, there's a gemach for this, you want flowers for your wedding, you want this or this, whatever it is. Nevertheless, we have to somehow, at certain times, learn how to say no. If a person gets so carried away with his chesed that it takes away from his life, he no longer has simchat chaim. He no longer has any menucha. Just think about how a person grows up. As a child, for the first few years, he throws dirty clothes all over the floor. Everyone that's had children knows exactly what we're talking about. Clothes are all over the place. Some people, they grow up, they're also the same way. And they throw clothes all over the floor. And the mom picks up the clothes and tidies up for the child. That's what happens. You're not gonna expect your 3-year-old, 4-year-old child to start folding clothes and putting it back. Eventually, the mom tells the child, when you get undressed, put the clothes in the laundry basket. If they're dirty, put it in the laundry basket. So what does that do? That teaches the child to take responsibility for himself or herself. As the child grows older and older, less and less is done for the child. It's teaching them responsibility. And he grows to become, or she grows also to become, a functioning human being. That's what's required. But if a parent is constantly the slave of the child, and for 20 years is always picking up the clothing of the child that's on the floor, what does this child become? He's lazy. He's an animal. You call him an animal. Animals would act like that. Now he's a 20-year-old animal. Yeah, just throw everything all over the place. They don't grow up. They don't develop the way that a child's supposed to develop. So in this case, saying no is a chesed. Saying no to your child is a very, very big kindness to your child, because you're allowing him to grow up and develop human beings. You have to know the boundaries. There's a family in England known as the Wolfson family. Very, very wealthy family. Own many large department stores in England. And I guess the patriarch of the family, his name was Rav Shlomo Wolfson. And he moved to England in the 1800s, and he had a family of 11 children, a family of Baalei Tzedakah, philanthropists. They say that over the years, their family have donated over £1 billion to tzedakah. It's an incredible number. And there's a lot of parts of the yeshivot over there. You see the name of the Wolfson family. One of his children, his name was Shmuel Wolfson. And at the time, there wasn't too much, I guess, religiosity in England. And he had a son that went to college. The son enjoyed skiing. And he would go a few times in the winter to Switzerland to enjoy with his friends, to go skiing. Switzerland's a beautiful country with a lot of ski lifts and mountains and places to enjoy the sport. It once happened, he decided to go last minute. And when he arrived, there were no hotels where he could stay. Everything was booked solid. But he knew there was a yeshiva nearby. And the Rosh Yeshiva at the time was the Seridei Esh. At the time, there's a lot of chachamim over there. So he walks into the yeshiva and he meets the Rosh Yeshiva. And he explains to him, listen, I'm here in Switzerland for a ski trip. And I got nowhere to stay because all the hotels are booked. And is there a place for me to stay in the yeshiva? Is there a place to stay? So Rosh Yeshiva told him, you can stay here on one condition. So what's the condition? He goes, you learn Gemara for 2 hours a day. You learn Gemara 2 hours a day. So the boy said, listen, I'll be honest with you, Rabbi. I never learned Gemara in my life. In fact, you mentioned the word, I don't even know what that is. You want me to say learn Gemara for 2 hours a day? He said, listen, I don't expect you to learn it by yourself. I'm going to teach you. And for 2 hours, we're going to learn Gemara every day. Every day, every morning, they would learn for 2 hours, and then he would go to ski, and then he would come back and sleep in the yeshiva. So he came back to England after learning Gemara for 2 weeks, and he had this desire to continue learning. He loved it so much, learning with the Rosh Yeshiva. He wanted to continue learning. So eventually he went to another yeshiva called Be'er Yaakov, where he became very close to the great Rav Shlomo Wolbe Zecher Tzadik Livracha. And today he's a great posek in Eretz Yisrael, one of the leading poskim. And he's known as Rav Aviezer Wolfson. I actually, when I read the story, I Googled him and I heard a few points about one of the shiurim. He has many children in Bnei Torah. There are Bnei Torah. One of them is opened a yeshiva called Netivot HaChochma. He's a Rosh Yeshiva of 900 students. This is one of his sons. This is an incredible story. So you think to yourself, you hear this story, you say to yourself, well, chesed is amazing. Chesed is lovely. Hachnasat orchim, without conditions and any stipulations, is great. But what did this rabbi do? This rabbi didn't say full chesed. Just to sleep in the yeshiva without learning? No such thing. You want to sleep in the yeshiva? No problem. You're going to have to learn 2 hours a day. I'm going to learn with you 2 hours a day. We'll make it challenging. So he gave him a no. There was a no there. It was a little no. The guy was expecting, okay, the nice rabbi, chesed, yeah, take free lodging, free board, enjoy. No. You have to say you're going to learn. So we have to learn in our own personal lives as well. We have to know when to say no. Often there's peer pressure to do certain things and be involved in various things in our lives, and not every single time are we supposed to say yes. Often, someone offers you a partnership with someone. I don't know if this is the right partnership. Nothing against you, but if it's not going to better my life, or maybe you know what, I'm holding somewhere differently in the partnership or in the chavruta or in the learning partner. Yeah, we're not denying the fact that chesed is one of the pillars of life, but nevertheless, chesed has limitations. It's more than limitation. The no sometimes has a yes embedded in it, and especially when you say no to peer pressure, as we're going to see soon, right? You're saying yes to a clear conscience. Even the Chazon Ish, who used to write letters to people who would ask him questions, he would once someone asked him for help of certain things that he was going through, and the Chazon Ish himself understood this was taking a big toll on him. So he says, I can't answer your question. I wish I could help you, but I can't answer your question. Because for whatever reason, either he was going through a tough time, or the Chazon Ish, whatever it is that was going on in his life, because I feel I can't answer this question. People think that, okay, the rabbi has to give it. The rabbi has to do this for me because he's a rabbi. That's his job. So if I ask him a question, he has to answer. Okay, but Baruch Hashem, most of the time we can answer questions. But sometimes we can't, because there's certain things going on in our lives as well. Once happened that one Rosh Hashiva was accepted upon himself to do a certain task. And it was causing him tremendous agmat nefesh. He was, again, very, very stressed about it. And, as much as he tried, he felt like he wasn't getting anywhere with it. So he went to his Rebbe. And his rabbi told him, what the rabbis say about when a person sins? En adam choteh ela im ken nichnas bo ruach shtut. A person won't sin unless some sort of a ruach shtut, some crazy idea, a ruach spirit enters him. That's what causes him to sin. He stopped thinking for a moment, which allowed him to perform the action. But he says sometimes the same inyan is en adam oseh chesed ela im ken nichnas bo ruach shtut. Sometimes you shouldn't be doing the chesed. Why do you say yes? Why do you say yes to this person when you can't handle it? So because you're too nice. So if a person takes on more than he can manage, it's going to pull him down. It's going to disturb his day. It's going to mess up all of his seder hayom. And what's going to end up happening? He'll burn out. He won't be able to produce the way he's produced. There's a famous book that I read. It's called The Art of Saying No. The Art of Saying No. It's written by author Damon Zaridis. I don't know if I pronounced his last name right, but he basically goes through different ideas and the importance of setting boundaries in a person's life and gracefully declining requests. And he says that there's really 8 possible things that can come out of this. Number 1, you realize what the power of boundaries are. That it establishes boundaries in your personal life and your professional life. It prevents burnout, like we said, unhealthy exertion. You have a healthier work-life balance. You have a demanding project at work, for example, and the colleague says, I need your help. I need you to do this because he can't do his part. When you politely decline, you set your boundaries. This is what I'm supposed to do, and that's what you're supposed to do. It increases focus, increases prioritization and focus. Because now you can prioritize your time and energy on better to what you were supposed to do. So, sometimes, we would receive multiple invitations. In the summertime, there's a wedding here, there's a bar mitzvah here, there's an end of season dinner, barbecue, whatever it is, and you don't know what to do, and you want to please everybody, and because you want to be everybody's friend. But you're going to have to decline. You're going to have to decline some invitations as you prioritize the events or attend the events that are most meaningful to you. It also increases communication. It makes your communication more effective. A friend asks you to volunteer for a project. Come help me with the Shul Hilula. Come help me run this Purim program. But you're already stretched in. So it's not that you're just saying no. You learn how to communicate why you're saying no. And you don't have to be ashamed of it. I'd love to help, but this is why I can't help. Some people say you don't even have to give an excuse. No is no. But to be polite, you could probably just explain why is it that you can't help. Of course, time management. Time management. If you keep on saying yes to everything, you'll realize you don't have time. You don't have time for yourself. But certainly what needs to be done, you can manage your time more effectively. Number 5, personal empowerment. If empowers you to take control of your lives. Because if you say yes to everything and you take upon yourself additional tasks and to-dos, then how is this going to affect your goals, your career goals in life? So again, you can prioritize the activities that contribute most to your professional growth in whatever field is that you're working. Number 6, arguably the most important one, reducing stress, right? Everybody suffers from stress. North American lifestyle, right? We were talking about not long ago, walking home from shul, how North American lifestyle is crazy. It's crazy. You can look at it compared to other parts in the world where they're just relaxed and they take their break, their siesta, they go for coffee in the afternoon, and they go back. They're not rushing. But here it's work. And now you're adding more work because you had to say yes because you feel bad. So you by avoiding overcommitment, then you can maintain better mental well-being. It builds better relationships because a friend that's constantly asking you for favors will disrupt your schedule, and therefore, again, when you set those boundaries, he will then respect you more and realize, okay, you know what? Better not ask unless I know he's available and willing to help, and overcomes the people-pleasing tendencies, as he says. Baruch Hashem, we're naturally good people and nice people, and we want to please everybody. But again, sometimes we can't. You're asked to join a school committee or join this co-chair this event, and sometimes people need to know that it is not so pashut because you got other things on that you have to take care of. The Chafetz Chaim says that the Yetzer Hara is the winner when it says yes, when a person says yes to everything. That's the only one that's winning is a Yetzer Hara. I want to do chesed. We all want to do chesed. We do chesed the whole time. I can't say yes to everybody because chesed has to have limitations. You have to have the right balance for it. And you help yourself when you learn to say no. To run around saying yes to everything is not right because it becomes a life that is not filled with menucha. Like we said, chayav ena chayim. His life is not really a life. So it goes back. Let's go back to the Chet Egel. Let's go back to how this all started. What was the mistake? What was the mistake? There was a matzab. There was something that was going on. There was something new. For so many years or for so many months, Moshe Rabbeinu was the one, the only one. All of a sudden, he's delayed for 6 hours. The whole thing was a 6-hour delay. Okay? And the Jews didn't know what to do. Somebody had an idea. A group of people had an idea. The Erev Rav. They started drinking. They started partying. Let's take your gold. Grab me your gold. Putting it into the fire. And out comes this golden calf. There was tremendous peer pressure going on. You can imagine. People wanted to join in because we don't know what's going to be. Midrash says they looked up and they saw Moshe Rabbeinu lying dead in his coffin. That's how the Yetzer Hara, that's how he portrayed and illustrated Moshe and Shamayim as dead. So they thought he was dead. So they're going around with their baskets. And they go to Shevet Levi and they're going to the women and they're saying, hey, come, join the party. Be part of it. RSVP. Yes or no? And then the women said no. The Shevet Levi, tribe of Levi, they said no. But that no was the biggest yes that they could ever say. Because the women were given the wonderful mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh, became the women national holiday. Every single month, women get to celebrate Rosh Chodesh. It's their holiday, their day of, because of me. Of course, there's much more to that. Maybe we could speak about it another time. And Shevet Levi, they became Hashem's main messengers, the servants in the Bet HaMikdash, what was supposed to be the firstborns, who were supposed to lead and bring the korbanot and offer the ketoret and all the incredible things that took place on a daily basis. They were shoved aside, and it was Shevet Levi, who took control. Why? Because they said no. Now, this peer pressure, we sometimes feel the need to do what people are expecting us to do. we have to realize that no is often a yes. And not always must we say yes. But he's waiting for me, but he expects it from me. I'm going to get him upset if I say no. How's he going to feel if I turn him down? Because again, nobody wants to be thought of that way. And if you think of our own professional lives and trying to keep up with the Joneses and trying to, whether it's to impress our bosses or to impress our fellow employees or our colleagues, I don't want to be the guy to spoil the party. I don't want to be the guy that always says, I can't. So we feel this need to say yes just because I'm worried, either I'm worried for my job or whatever it is. And obviously, I'm not here to tell you that you should say no to your bosses. If it certainly is a responsibility that you have to do, then you have to do it. But definitely, we can start thinking a bit more on, and once we get back from our work in our personal lives, and understanding that sometimes we can't always say yes. Sometimes, you know what? I'd love to be machnis orchim. I'd love to bring people to my home for a Shabbat meal and celebrate and get together with friends. And yeah, it's amazing mitzvah. Abraham Avinu was the king of Hachnasat Orchim. But sometimes I need to be with my family. Sometimes it's important to say, you know what? I'm not having guests this Shabbat. I want to be with my family. I want to sit down with my kids. I want to hear about their week, which I wouldn't get a chance to do if I did have guests coming over. And so it's not like it's not chas v'shalom anti-chesed. There will be times where you will say yes. Yeah, we will have guests. We are going to do this. We are going to go to that party. We are going to go to that shul event. We are going to go. And then sometimes you have to understand, no. Of course, we know that it's an essential part. Eliezer, when he was searching for a wife for Yitzchak, that was the criteria. It was chesed. It needed to be chesed. That if there's no chesed, then you can't be part of the Jewish people. Like we said, olam chesed yibaneh. But if a person feels that it's getting out of control, then not every time we're asked to do a chesed do we have to say yes. Sometimes it has to be a no. A chesed without boundaries, chesed where you're going to expend yourself to the point where you're gonna lose your inner strength. You're gonna exert yourself to the point where you're just too stressed and overstressed. Those are the opportunities. Those are the times where you say, you know what, I'm just going to hold back. You know what, I see what's going on over here. I'm not sure if I should put my gold in. I think I'm just going to sit aside. I understand that I might ruin the party and ruin the celebration, but you know what? No. Like I said, that no turned out to be the biggest yes. The limitation of chesed, the saying no, helps us grow, helps us keep us in balance, and helps us grow in ways of avodat Hashem. In different ways. B'ezrat Hashem, like we say, the art of saying no. It's something that's not pashut. It's not easy. I recommend people to read the book. You can. I'm sure it's available on Amazon or your local bookstore or library. It's not simple to do. It requires a lot of effort. Myself included, need to work on that. We always feel inclined to just say yes to everything, but and it's a topic that I think a lot of people don't want to talk about. But equally as important, because it's not something that we're used to hearing as Jewish people. Say no when someone asks you of something. You're right. Most of the time I'm going to say yes, but there's going to be times that I'm going to say no. And sometimes it could save your life, like the women and Shevet Levi, and it can bump you all the way up to the highest levels of Kedusha. Wishing everybody a wonderful night. Be well.